And then, sorry, Lincoln, I'm just going to make you co-host right now. There you go. Now, Lincoln, you should be able to just share your screen and go ahead.
All right. Come on. Start slideshow here. All right, welcome everyone. So, pest control. Here's the one sign that or letter that no restaurant wants to see up on their wall when they come to work one day. And this is here in Winnipeg, a restaurant that was shut down about 10 years ago. And I'm not sure which section is the failure, but this restaurant was heavily infested with mice. Now, house mice, they're a big challenge for everyone. They're gray in color, they're 3 to 4 inches in body, and another 3 to 4 inches in tail. The nose is very pointy and the ears are large. Just to think everyone knows about it, but the big challenge with mice once they get established inside is a male and a female mouse. When they mate, the female will reach sexual maturity in about 35 days, and they have an average of 6 young, 6 per litter and 8 litters per year. So very fast for an infestation to create to be very large. And the lifespan of an average mouse is about 1 year. So habits and evidence of mice, and this is what, when people are looking for, these are the droppings, whether it's the pest control or the health inspector are looking for. But the droppings and or nests, you can see in the bottom picture, is the grease marks from a mouse running in and out of the hole. Now, mice are colorblind. They follow the walls because they have very poor vision, and their whiskers let them know that they're touching a safe surface. On average, they produce 50 droppings a day, and they eat about 10 to 20 times, but are nibblers. They only eat a little bit and will move on looking for other food. Their travel, they'll move around about 25 feet. Anything further than that can occur, but it's odd. And then the droppings, about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch long. They'll be pointed at each end, and they are usually black in color, but depending on what they're eating will determine what color their droppings are. And then the grease marks, as I mentioned before. So reasons for control. So mice do carry disease. The house mouse does only carry salmonella, which is the most common one it will carry. Contamination of food, of eating products or droppings on the food, and people fear mice. One time in Vancouver, when I was working there, I was at a restaurant, and the cook took the wok out of the underneath this oven, banged out the mouse droppings, and then proceeded to cook into that. So, first step of rodent control. First thing we always got to look at is outside. We want to try to stop them from entering. So here's a picture of a outside area, and you'll see the garbage bags in the back corner. The problem with the garbage sitting out like that is it creates harborage. So mice are moving around from the fields, they run against the building, they have harborage, maybe there's food that they'll chew into and eat out of, and then they'll look for openings. So the first step is so important to make sure any openings are sealed so that mice can't enter. Again, when we take a look at exteriors of buildings, high brush like this, high shrubs like this, will give all mice natural hiding spots, and rodent pressure will increase. So we always recommend to stop rodents before they get in, to ever have the grass cut very short, or to have 3 feet of no vegetation from the building. As well as there's exterior bait stations that can be put outside. Mice go into the bait stations for harborage, feed on the rodent bait, and die before they get inside. Again, here's just showing exterior walls, but outside you can see the openings far in the back, and right underneath the mice would crawl or going into here and then entering the restaurant. And where I'm garbage areas. So now I've not even gone inside. I'm still looking at outside, trying to give recommendations to make sure this is looked at, especially with the spring coming here, that the air should be clean, Garbage shouldn't be laying on the ground, and any excess clutter should be removed. Now we're getting close to going into the restaurant. First item is that we need to look at is door sweeps. And a lot of times some doors will shift, or the one picture, the door sweep there is ripping off of the ground, and there'll be a gap and the mice will just enter right through the back loading doors. Now, this is more of a commercial site, but I like to show it because it just shows the harborage and the damage to doors. And I can't stress enough that back loading doors are always underestimated for mice entering. All right, and then anytime people have work done, always have it reviewed. This one site, they packed it down, they made it sure it was nice closed off, but upon our inspection, there was still a hole that was not fixed. So interior rodent control. So the first area when we go into a restaurant, first thing we want to look at is trying to have traps as close to the loading doors as possible. And then in common areas where there'll ever be electrical lines, plumbing lines, storage areas, to ensure that traps are in those areas to catch any mice that might be moving around. So going inside, so both pictures at the top show kind of loading doors, and the trap is underneath the stand there, and on the right, it's underneath the racking. Against the wall, catches any mice coming in. Now, whenever we catch a mouse beside a loading door, it's a concern. We know that mice are entering from the outside, but the bottom picture is by the stove, and the one on the right with the mouse trap, underneath there, there's a hole in the wall, and that trap continuously catches mice. While it will be it's doing its job, fixing that hole in the back is going to be an important step to eliminating mice. Dish pits or dishwasher areas. Underneath here, there'll be one or two mechanical traps. The mice will go in there. They're held into a holding area and removed during pest control service. Prep lines, again, common spot. There'll be electrical or plumbing openings down at the bottom, and this again a picture of a mouse trap underneath, catching anything that might be moving around. So storage rooms, and this is a big challenge in all types of areas is storage. But when you have clutter on the ground and we don't have access to inspect the back corner, that creates a rodent problem, because a lot of times they'll be able to establish a nest back there, and there's no point of having a mouse trap there if we can't access it. Now, the picture on the right, again, it's a residential picture, but I just wanted to use about good sanitation, about having any excess clutter removed and any items that aren't needed up off the ground, so that we're able to inspect for holes and inspect for rodent droppings. So service frequency. Everybody asks, how often should pest control service be? And that really will depend on the site. Some sites do need weekly service. Some sites need 2 services a month, or some, and the majority is once a month. But the picture above, there's an exterior door, and the mouse trap is propping the door open. Now, if we're there weekly, we're able to inspect to make sure the traps are in the right spots. Now, crawl spaces, these are areas under the restaurants. They should be inspected monthly, 2 times a year, or once a year, depending on history of the mouse activity. So here's a bigger challenge that we're seeing. This is becoming Poulin's #1 pest that we deal with monthly, German cockroaches. So a German cockroach is about half an inch to 5/8 of an inch long. They're light brown to tan, and when a female lays her egg, the egg has 28 to 32 baby cockroaches in the egg capsule. So a female will produce about 8 egg capsules in her lifetime. The nymphs will molt before they become adults, and they live for about 100 to 200 days. Cockroaches have a number of diseases that they will carry. They have all types. When they crawl across the food surface, They contaminate that area with their feet and the diseases. Their bodies can be found in food, and people fear cockroaches. Everyone says cockroaches. Winnipeg doesn't have cockroaches. The German cockroach is worldwide. It's the #1 cockroach that every pest control company will deal with. And the increase is there's less pesticides being sprayed. The gel baits that controlled them 20 years ago aren't working like they used to. The pest control industry has backed away from doing treatments that we need to do to make them work. And these pests have been around since the Ice Age. So this is just a picture of some droppings. That's the fecal matter on the hinge and fecal matter above the heater there. Just trying to get, here's my video. So this could be a staff member. This could be your neighbor. So this infestation is approximately 4 to 5 months. And I like to show this video because this was in a residential kitchen, but this person could be an employee at a restaurant or a food manufacturer. They make their lunch, and then when they go to work, they bring their lunch kit with them, and they introduce the roaches to that area. And what I mean by that is, so here's a locker room, maybe at a restaurant. This one was at a food plant. But when we did our inspections, we started finding cockroaches, and the picture on the right, up in the corner, is 3 or 4 cockroaches up there, and we found females laying eggs in there as well. So very important that if you've got a staff locker room, that they're monitored for cockroaches. And here's the picture of how I recommend it. Stand off the ground, Tupperware bin for the supplies, a glue board in there. And then you can see the picture on the right. They're monitoring it, and cockroaches were found, and the one individual was bringing them into work. At this one place, the manager was meeting with the staff as they came into work, and one lady actually had a cockroach on her shoulder. Her place was so heavily infested. Monitoring programs. So best thing for roaches is to have insect monitors, which are glue boards. It's just a board with glue, and then you position them where cockroaches are commonly found. Dish pits, coffee bars are the 2 most common spots we see infested with them. So the glue board is folded up, put around the hot water pipes, underneath sinks. Again, there's a picture of a coffee bar. It would be behind the coffee machines. And very important that you seal any plumbing lines that would be around. So here I'm just trying to show a couple sinks where the tiles have broken away, and these are the voids that cockroaches absolutely seek out and infest. So here's a prep line. Underneath, we've got a glue board in the back corner. It's not going to bother anybody, and it allows the pest control company to inspect and determine if cockroaches are present. Another prep line, and here in the back, you can see a glue board by the coiled wire there. The best thing to do is to fix that drywall. When we did find the roaches in there, we had to spray it. We had to use some insecticide dust and keep it under control. And then we monitored it for a number of months to make sure it was cockroach free. So biggest thing with control procedures is management cooperation. We can get rid of the roaches. We've got some great insecticides and great treatment methods, but if we don't get the cooperation on-site staff of cleaning up and or sealing the holes, and these pictures are from restaurants, you can see when that mop in the bottom picture was picked up, the roaches would run underneath it, or run from the mop being lifted up. And this is all food sources for roaches to feed on. So the first step for roach control is sanitation. Sanitation alone won't eliminate roaches, but it will reduce the number of treatments needed. And I just like cardboard. Roaches love cardboard, but when you have an organized storage room like this, it allows us to inspect and see what the any concerns. So what do we do? So here's a fridge. That little Coke fridge, this glue board was slid underneath there. And you can see how many cockroaches can be infested in this was just in a food court in the mall, but there's easily 150 roaches on that glue board. And fridges need to be pulled out, and we need to spray the back motor. How the motors create the warmth, and a common spot we find roaches nesting in. Now this, another restaurant, there's a grill line, and underneath the wheels, or down by the wheels, that's just a small little void that cockroaches need to harbor. Okay. Again, this is in a dish pit, and what I'm just trying to show you here is different voids that should be sealed up before a cockroach infestation is present. Now we go for the day of the treatment, and this is what we have to deal with when we go in for it. The chicken, like the food needs to be covered and removed. The house is a residential house, but I was just showing people don't cooperate for cockroach treatments, and that's a reason that the program will fail. And just showing just more of a mess. And this is a freezer, a fridge and freezer, but the rubber or the seal was cracking, and the roaches had moved into that seal and were infested in there. And when we knocked them out, that's how many came out of the seal. 20 years, when I started 25 years ago, we had this product called Max Force. And I just show some pictures of it. It's a gel paste, similar to toothpaste. And the roaches would go, they would feed on it, and they would die. And we would go into some of the dirtiest apartments that people could ever imagine. And we could get rid of cockroaches within 2 weeks. The gel baits were just that effective. However, the cockroaches have adapted, and the cockroaches now will not feed on gel baits. So we are going back and we're doing treatments with residual sprays and dusts, almost like it was 1980s again, but we're finding that the treatment is much more effective. We're getting rid of the roaches faster. It is more time consuming, but it's giving the results that we have to deliver. So after treatment, there will always be follow-up for cockroaches. We have to keep an eye on it to make sure there's no more that are present, no more crawling around. And I'm just showing this because in this one work place, the coffee maker, the roaches were infested in the coffee maker, and you could just pick it up and drop it on the counter, and easily 6 to 10 roaches would run out all the time. But we got that narrowed down. A small piece of equipment like that, you can put in a freezer. Roaches hate cold. 5 Celsius is very uncomfortable for them and very close to death for roaches. So any small pieces of equipment, bags or anything, can be put in the cooler, and you'll kill the roaches that way. Now, small flies. We're coming into summer season here when a lot of these fungus gnats, moth flies, phorid flies, and fruit flies will all be flying out in nature. And what happens is when people bring in produce or open up the back door, fruit flies or drain flies can enter. Now, a quick, easy way to tell the difference, if there's any reddish look to them, they're going to be a fruit fly. If they're black, they're going to be a drain fly. And I bring that up because if you don't eliminate the source, you'll never get rid of small flies. So the fruit fly is going to be into something that's more into fermenting fruits and vegetables, where a drain fly is going to be something more with an organic, wet moisture breeding site. And again, I'm just going to emphasize, if you don't remove the source, everything else is monitoring or partial control. So with fruit flies, where we find them a lot when we go in is in the storage room. And I just didn't have a picture of a basket of onions or lemons. But if you start banging the box of onions and flies are coming out, somewhere in that box, you're going to have a rotten onion or a rotten lime somewhere, and that could be the source to be breeding fruit flies. As well, we see a lot of people putting limes into their beers, and if the restaurant doesn't move a lot of beer bottles, that lime could be a breeding site for fruit flies as well. Now, another common spot that we see fruit flies a lot at is the drink gun holders. So I've pulled out this drink gun holder, and if you look inside, you'll see a bunch of sludge in there, and that sludge is what the fruit flies will breed on. Now, finding the source is not always easy. This is a great picture. When I were doing the inspection, it was rotated. I didn't know that this box had a leak on it, but one of those cans got punctured during a delivery, leaked all over the cardboard, and the fruit flies found that and were breeding in there. And until that was found and removed and the good cans used, the fruit fly problem would continue to persist. Now, drain flies are different. Now here, not going to be worrying about fruits or vegetables. We're going to be looking where water is at. And this is behind a ice machine. And unfortunately, it doesn't show up, but there's a slime film in that drain. And that's what's going to breed fruit flies, or excuse me, drain flies. Here's a picture of a potted plant, and the water there hasn't been refilled for a couple of days, and that layer of slime, if I could call it that, that's what the fruit drain flies will breed in. And then we have a commercial drain here, and all that filth underneath the drain is what will breed the drain flies. So what I always recommend to people is to take hot water and pour it down their drains every week, every 2 weeks, to kind of keep that film removed. And again, if there's active water moving forward, like a lot of people say, oh, they're coming out of the drain. Well, they can't come out of the drain if it's used every day. They need that 6-7 days for the egg to be laid there, and then it will hatch. Some of these floor drains don't get enough volume down there, and that's why the flies are able to breed underneath there. Now, the source is not always easy to find. So here I am, I'm kind of just showing how that ABS pipe is split there. And this was a dishwasher that was in front of there, and somehow that ABS pipe broke, and every time the restaurant washed the dishes, all the dirty water would go down the drain, except it would leak out of there, not all of it, but lots of it. And that black stuff down at the bottom is all a sludge substance from months of the dishwasher running water and it leaking into there. And picture on the right is showing kind of the same thing. There was another place where there was a leak in the wall, and until that source is fixed and cleaned out, they would continue to have drain flies. Now, common spot with draft beer lines, they'll have the overflow or the drain for the beer. But when I do my inspections, people will see their line actually isn't perfectly to go for the excess beer to drain clearly, and there'll be bends in it. And when the bend is in there, then the beer will collect in there, and eventually flies will start breeding right from your beer line. So what I always recommend to customers is at the start of the end of the bartender shift is have them pour a pitcher of hot water down the draft beer line every shift to help to keep that line clear of any debris, and then the drain itself here to be cleaned out once a month. And what I mean by cleaned out, just pouring some clean hot water down there will keep those drain flies under control. Now, this is the worst case scenario, but last year I had a museum and a small coffee shop have this problem. So restrooms, dishwashers, the sinks, they all drain and they go underground, and the line breaks underneath the slab. And what happens is that slab there, that every time the pipe water drains through there, it's leaking. So to detect this, what we did is we take these small fly lights, and you can see the picture on the right is a glue board filled with moth flies, and we put it over that drain. We duct tape it in. This was at the coffee shop. We duct tape the area off so that the flies, if they're under the slab, this will show me if they are coming up from underneath the slab, which it did. And they had to go break up the floor, fix the plumbing issue. And then what we had to do is make sure they dug out all the wet sludge substance and dried that all out. And then they re-poured the floor. That's in my 25 years, I've only found 3 places where this has happened. So it's not something that occurs often, but I just wanted to bring up that that is a challenge that people face. And I will hit a schedule here. I hope everyone enjoyed my presentation. And if there's any questions, please let me know.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lincoln. I'm just going to stop your sharing screen here. Oops. Lincoln, can you click the share screen and stop sharing your screen button for me? I can't do it from my end. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions for Lincoln?
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Okay.
Hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Hey, Lincoln, thank you very much for this. This is very knowledgeable. I didn't know half that stuff, so appreciate this. I've been a customer for you guys for many years now. I own Silver Heights Restaurants. I'm also the chair for the Restaurant Association, so people are always asking me questions of what we do, but we're always a big supporter of Poulin's because you've helped us out quite a bit.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, no, and Quincy is our guy.
Quasi.
Quincy, Quincy.
Crazy, yeah. Yeah, he's
Crazy
been with
Quincy.
us for about 20 years already.
Pardon me?
He's been with Poulin's for 20 years.
Has he already?
Yep.
Holy
He's very close to that.
Yeah, no, he's been fantastic. So, couple questions regarding the mice. We don't have any issues. Just make sure that everybody knows that. How high would they climb? You're mentioning that they run against the wall with their whiskers and their shoulders. We all know that. Do they climb, and how high do they climb to find that hole? If there's a hole.
The short answer is anything above knee level, okay, is going to be common for them to be using actively. Now, they could go up 2 stories on stucco.
Okay.
Very rare that they would ever do that, though. Now, same thing when in a high-rise buildings. If they get on the main floor and get established, they'll go up to the next floor to look for food once the infestation builds up that high.
Okay.
Okay, or they can go from them like on a plumbing line, go up the studs like in the walls, and then get into a ceiling.
Right. Once they're inside, yeah.
Once they're inside, yes.
Okay, so if they're outside the back lane, they're walking around. You know, obviously we have all our traps, everything. We followed the advice from our guys and with the vegetation and the holes and the door sweeps, everything that you mentioned. But you know, when I was thinking, how eager are they? Just gonna? We're trying to eliminate the target, and they're gonna go to the next door, or are they gonna try and get higher if they feel some kind of warmth?
No, well, warmth again. I wouldn't be too concerned of anything more than knee height,
Okay.
maybe waist height, because this mouse is on the ground. It's darting across an open area, especially if there's no clutter, right? It's not going to stop and say, you know what, I'm going to take my chances and climb up 8 or 10 feet on this outside wall. Not going to say it never happens, but that's going to make up less than 1% of all our jobs. The common start is that door sweep is worn out, or new electrical line, or people that put these low-lying decks and something happens underneath and then you can't access that opening.
Right. Awesome. One quick question too, regarding the German cockroaches. Now, when our guy comes, is this a service that we gotta ask for, or are they automatically doing that, checking that kind of stuff? Nobody's ever brought that attention to me that if there is that, hey, by the way, Tony, you got this issue. Is it something that we have to say, hey, Quanzo, can you look this in, or do we have to, is it automatic? Davey?
It would be a combination. I'd have to go back and review. Everybody's contract is slightly different.
Okay.
But I can certainly put a note for Quasi to talk to you about it the next time he's out.
Yeah, I'm always seeing him, and I'm asking about the fruit flies, but now I'm wondering if they weren't fruit flies after all. Now they're drain flies. I've been trying to figure out how to get rid of. So,
Okay, yeah. What area of the restaurant?
by the bar, so by the beer lines, by the by our mainly by the beer line and the Coke guns.
Yeah,
Two things.
Coke guns.
Right?
Big thing I'd recommend is check the Coke guns
Yeah.
inside there. And then as well, like I said, with the beer lines, start pouring that pitcher of hot water down there.
Yeah, that's what we do it daily. So
Okay.
yeah, but it seems like every restaurant I've ever talked to, there that's the most common thing is that they're still around. And normally by November, December, we don't see anything. But this year it seems like they've been around this entire season. So
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll stop by with Quasi and take a look at that.
okay, perfect. Those are the two questions I had. Those are good. Like.
Any other questions? Awesome.
Is
Well,
there-
if,
One more question. I guess I can ask please too. Just for general maintenance on cockroach or fruit flies, is there a spray or any kind of thing other than Raid? I don't believe in the Raid thing, but
Unfortunately, we used to have what we called the Pona strips, and they were fantastic for drain flies. We put it right by the beer line where it drains into the to the actual drain there.
Yeah.
Hang a couple under the bar, and they were fantastic. Except they're being phased out, and meaning that the government is banning them for use in Canada. So now we do have some fruit fly, drain fly traps that are good with sanitation. And that's what I was going to bring to show you.
great, awesome. Those little orange little puck things.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. And
Well, thank you. And I hope I didn't talk too fast. That's one flaw sometimes that I go through the presentation a little quicker than I should. My dad always told me to slow down a little bit.
you're dealing with the restaurant guys. We want you to talk quick so we can get back to the other things we got to do.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that then.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lincoln. And thank you guys all for coming.
Have a good day.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, guys.
See you, sports doctor.